Hey, what is going on, everybody? Happy Cinco de Mayo Day. I'm Noah Kravitz from Techno Buffalo,
I'm James Kendrick from ZDNet Mobile News.
and welcome to Good to Go. James, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I am all right. I'm all right. It's Thursday. It means it's time to do it again, and lots going on in the world of mobile tech as always. So let's dive right into it. I think Samsung and AT&T launched a ginormous phone today in New York, and there's been a bunch of rumors about Apple cutting the cord, so to speak, with OTA updates. Where do you want to start?
The Infuse. I guess we can jump in there real quick. That announcement just came out. We haven't seen it yet, either one of us. But mainly, it's a 4.5-inch display phone. It's
Yeah.
just like, wow. It's like the world's smallest tablet, maybe.
Yeah, there were rumors that that's what it was going to be, and they actually showed the phone back at CES, sort of, not undercover, but sort of quietly. And so I was digging around a little yesterday online and thinking, wow, Dell Streak was like a 5-inch sort of tablet phone, and obviously this is a little bit different, but that didn't seem to go over all that well. I don't know when is I'm gonna open it up for bad double entendres here, but when is too big just plain too big?
Yeah. Previously the biggest phones were the 4.3 inch Evo, the Charge, and a whole bunch of other HTC phones. I played with every one of them, and I have really big hands, and I actually like that size phone, but
Yeah,
that's stretching it. I have to admit, sometimes that's almost getting too big for me.
yeah.
I don't know who could use a 4.5-inch phone.
I
Maybe that's
Yeah, just before we came online, or rather came on here to tape, I was looking at some photos on Twitter that some of the folks in New York, some of the journalists at the event were posting of the phone. Granted, these were photos taken at kind of weird angles. Some of them that sort of distort things. When you take a photo from the top down at an angle, it makes the actual size of things look strange. But I mean, this thing's just huge, and I don't know. I also have fairly large hands, but I actually am not personally such a big fan of the 4-inch plus screens, just because I don't want to carry around something that big in my pocket. But to each their own, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it does in the market, and kind of interesting to me that it wasn't launched. It's not packed to the gills. It has the Super AMOLED Plus display, which is fantastic technology. It has dual cameras. It has 4G, although it's kind of quasi 4G. I think it's HSPA 14.4, which
yeah.
is stretching the definition there in my eyes. But it doesn't have a dual core processor. It shoots video in 720, not 1080. Blah blah blah. Interesting to me that they didn't just like load it up as the biggest baddest beast on the block. But
Well, I think they just figured it really was with that
right,
big screen, so that
right.
was good enough, you
Yeah.
know.
So yeah, that's out May 15th. I think $200. Although there were ads leaked earlier in the week from, I don't know, Walmart or Costco or something showing it being cheaper. But anyway, there you go. If you want a giant phone, you can get a giant phone.
Yeah.
But yeah, Apple, Verizon, AT&T, iPhone over the air updates, lots of rumors. What do you know about that, and what do you think about that?
Well, it's beginning to sound more and more like there are serious discussions from Apple, and that kind of surprises me because Apple has been wonderful at controlling every part of the update process for iOS.
I
And
mean, I have about 20 of these lying around. What am I going to do with these now?
well, you can still use them. They would probably end up being faster. I mean, Apple's going to have to change their whole update process because currently each update contains the whole firmware image, and that's 600 megabytes plus.
Yeah, yeah,
How long is that going to take on the AT&T network? Yeah,
seriously,
it's
yeah,
just going to be. And
yeah.
speaking of the AT&T network, if you know where I'm going with this, if Apple starts doing OTA updates for the iPhone and the iPad, what is going to happen to the world famous AT&T network every time an update gets rolled out? It's gonna
Yeah.
crash.
I
It's gonna
mean,
be
if you've ever
bad.
been to CES or CTIA, or I think it was a little bit better this year from what I heard, South by Southwest. some of these big events where tons of geeks and people who report on geeks descend, and you try to use an iPhone in one of those places, it just all screeches to a halt.
And that's
yeah,
nothing compared to huge streaming downloads.
right,
I mean,
right. That's voice
that
calls and text messages.
saturates the
Yeah,
network.
yeah.
I just don't see what the gain is for Apple, personally. Yeah.
Well,
I
that's
mean,
it.
while we all like that, I mean, I love Android and WebOS and all the other platforms do OTA updates, and they can get away with it because they're smaller samples of users. I mean,
Right.
there's hundreds of millions of iPhone and iPad owners out there.
Right, and while there may be, comparable number more of Android users, that's split across many different devices, each with their
And
own.
carriers and
Yeah, and
carriers.
carriers. Yeah, yeah. So
And that's the other thing that I can't fathom how this would work, because I guarantee you the carriers will get involved with the Apple update process no matter what. People say, "Oh no, Apple's too big. They won't let that happen." They won't have any choice. I mean,
yeah,
then
yeah,
it's the networks, it's the carrier's network and bandwidth, and they control it. They're not going to just turn anybody, even an Apple, loose and say, "Yeah, just shoot it out whatever
right,
you want."
right. It's one thing to give up some control to Apple as far as the hardware and the software, but when you're
Hmm.
talking about the network, absolutely. So to go back to your sort of rhetorical question, what is there for Apple to gain? I mean, is it just user perception? People saying, I'm going to quote you before we went on air. Oh, my that's not me doing James's voice. That's me doing the voice that James did earlier. I want to get that straight. Um, you know,
Okay.
oh man, you have an iPhone. It's tethered. You're in the Stone Age. My Android phone. Download over-the-air updates. Boom, I'm updated. Let's go. I mean, is there anything beyond that for Apple to gain? If from
Well,
going
the
this
only
route?
thing I tell you, the only thing that occurs to me is we know, or we believe, Apple is probably pushing this cloud incentive going forward with those stuff.
Right.
That would be certainly a part of it. I'm sure. So maybe they've already figured this out. Apple usually figures things out
They
before
have
they
a knack for
jump.
figuring things out. Yeah.
Yeah. So who knows? But I don't know. I'm just fine with plugging in if I have to. I mean, if
Yeah.
that's what
No,
it
I agree.
takes.
Speaking of AT&T again, actually, the Veer, the first of the HP WebOS
Yeah.
devices, um, the actual date is now eluding me when they announce it's going to be shipping.
It's coming up real quick. I
Yeah.
mean, it's actually moved a little bit, but it's real quick.
Yeah.
So it's
That
coming.
that'll
What a
be
tiny phone. That's the other
right.
end of the
Right.
spectrum from the 4.5-inch phone.
Yeah, exactly. And then actually, Sony Ericsson today relaunched kind of refreshed versions of the Xperia Minis. It was
Xperia.
funny. I saw that on my RSS feed, and my first thought was, oh man, like somebody's RSS generator's broken, and an old article slipped in there, because I really thought it was that, from first glance, the what was the X10 Mini and the X10 Mini Pro, but they're new refreshes, and apparently the keyboard on the Mini Pro, the Mini being I think it's a 3-inch screen, touch only, and then the Mini Pro having a slide-out keyboard, like the Veer. The HP Veer has a slide-out keyboard as well.
Right.
But apparently the keyboard on the Mini Pro is really, really good. The keyboard on the Veer, I was surprised when I used it at that demo event way back when, how good it was. So
Right. Yeah, I was too. I mean, in fact, I was also surprised how small it is when it's closed,
yep,
but it still looked like a pretty decent WebOS experience, which
yeah,
surprised me with
yep,
such a small thing. And I was going to ask you, now that we're talking about it, I got the definite impression from HP out at that event that we both attended way back. What's that? February now. Wow.
yeah,
Anyway, I got the definite impression that the Veer was not necessarily supporting the synergistic capabilities with the touchpad, because all they ever talked about were
huh.
the other two phones.
That's
Okay.
interesting, because I don't know if it was at the event or an interview I read shortly afterwards with John Rubinstein, where somebody from HP was talking about a use case for the Veer being kind of a phone for somebody who does a lot of work on a tablet, or probably more likely a laptop, but they wanted to try to spin it with upselling the touchpad. But so a phone for somebody who they use the phone for kind of quick information, for voice calls, obviously, maybe a short text message. But a lot of the time they're going to use their tablet, and so then the phone is very small and it can function as a mobile hotspot, which made me. That's the only thing I remember hearing specific about that. I definitely did not see a demo. The whole bump the phone to the tablet together and the web page, is that pre-3 only?
Well, initially that's the impression that they gave at that event. Now I've heard since then that it's also the not the Veer, but the other one. What's the other one that was not the pre-3? Then there was
what are they calling it?
Oh man, I can't remember now. But anyway, I got the definite impression that the pre-3 was it as far as the communication synergy between the touchpad. But I've since heard someone say no, they were confirmed with HP that that's not true.
Okay.
That all of the WebOS phones will have that capability. So I was going to ask you if you'd heard that. I had not heard that officially.
Yeah, I am.
It would make sense, like you said, as a hotspot. And actually, what the usage you described for the little Veer, kind of makes it into like a Bluetooth headset for the tablet.
Right, exactly.
if that's the case. But anyway, it's gonna come out soon. I guess we'll know. It'll be out before the touchpad, which I sure wish I'd get that thing released, because I'm pretty sure
I'm doing a little Googling in the background here is why I'm looking down, and maybe it was only 2 phones, actually, 2 phones and a tablet.
Yeah, the Veer and the Pre-3.
And the Pre-3, yeah, because there was no Pixie refresh.
Yeah, no, that's correct.
Right.
But anyway, it's the Veer that I've since heard others say that they've heard from HP it will handle the touchstone stuff and the and the synergy, but we'll just have to see. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm anxious for them. I was the fool in the room. I really thought they were going to pull a fast one and announce that at least one of those devices was shipping, that day back in February, because they'd made such a big thing.
And they've even said that they need to do that.
Yeah.
And they still haven't. And they still haven't confirmed. I don't believe they've confirmed actual shipping for the touchpad, which is just it's like we said, it was way back in February when this thing was announced, and so here we are still waiting.
Well, it's like the advice that I and I'm sure you give to readers all the time, which is, well, should I get this phone or wait for that phone? Well, if you can, always wait, because something better is always around the corner in this business. So I don't know, maybe it's
I often say the opposite. Because if that's the case, you can actually, and I've seen people like this, be waiting all the time and never ever get anything.
Well, that's why I never get anything done, because I'm just waiting the whole time. So.
Just playing around with all this stuff, but we're hitting the time.
Speaking of waiting, all right. Well, next week we'll do it again. I'm going to be out at Google I/O on Tuesday and Wednesday, but we'll tape again Thursday. And I'm hearing some rumors. I don't know. This is just rumor talk, but I may have a Galaxy Tab 10.1 in my hand. Rumors that, last year at Google I/O, Google gave out Evo 4Gs to everybody in attendance, developers conference. I'm hearing rumors about them giving out a 10.1 to all the devs this year. I don't know if it's true. But we'll see.
I've heard similar things here, or Zooms. I've heard that too. To tell you the truth.
Yep. Would make sense.
Look under your chair.
I will, exactly. It's the old Steve Jobs did that one year at back when Macworld was in New York. They gave out it was either keyboard or they had a new mouse that they gave out, and a friend of mine was at the keynote and got it. And it was one of those things where it was like, it's like a $50, $60 peripheral, which is great. I mean, anything, but it was more just to like, this is the keynote. I got the keynote keyboard, so.
That was obviously before Apple owned everybody. They don't have to do that stuff now.
Yes, exactly. All right, James, if the folks out there want to get more of you, I was going to say in print, but I guess in pixels formed into letters and words and blog posts,
Yes.
where can they find you?
It's the ZDNet Mobile News blog. That's zdnet.com/blog/mobile-news.
All right, and as always, I'm hanging around on technobuffalo.com and our YouTube channel and Twitter. You're on Twitter. We never say this at the end.
I'm everywhere. Jay Kendrick is me.
Jay Kendrick, excellent. And I'm Noah Kravitz, easy enough. All right, till next time, James, enjoy the week. Enjoy a giant 4.5-inch screen phone if one heads your way.
Yeah.
And we'll do it again.
I'll have to duck.
Yeah, exactly. We'll do it again next Thursday.
All right. See you, Noah.
All right. See you, James.